Good morning, everyone. This is Michelle. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. If you're here, give me a thumbs up. If you're joining my live Facebook video, give me a heart. Today, we are talking about shame and chronic pain. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes to see if anyone joins live, and then we'll move into the discussion about shame and chronic pain. No one's joining yet, but that's okay. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. It's beautiful here. The sun is shining in Kelowna. Gorgeous. Birds are singing. Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, so I'm going to move into my discussion today. So, shame and chronic pain. Brené Brown is the leading expert on the study of shame. Her definition of shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. People often ask, what is the difference between guilt and shame? So we feel guilty about things that we've said or done. I know in my life there were times where guilt weighed me down from the choices I made that went against my inner wisdom or my morals. I also believe that chronic guilt, not forgiving yourself, can actually change to shame. So yes, if that guilt is left unchecked or forgiven, so it can be left unchecked. Our guilt can be left unchecked when our ability to develop self-compassion, self-empathy, self-love has not been fostered. We are human. As humans, we make mistakes. So it's really important that if you feel guilty about something that you've done, that in some way you find it within yourself to forgive yourself for that. So shame is actually focused on self and the feeling that I am bad. Guilt is focused on a behavior and I did something bad. So that's the fundamental difference between shame and guilt. So shame is I am bad and guilt is I did something bad. So this is where forgiveness of self and the guilt we carry is so important. Being able to say I'm sorry to others, to admit a mistake enables us to move past holding it to the point of feeling shame. So we talked about that. So being able to say, to someone that you made a mistake, I think is really important. And if you're not able to say that, to just tell yourself, I'm human, I made a mistake. I learned from that mistake. I will never do that again. Because one of the things you don't want to happen is to continue to carry that guilt, so it does change into the point of feeling shame, where then you start to believe that you are unworthy. When you're able to admit your wrongs and not carry the guilt, you do not become your mistakes and you do not identify with being unworthy. You might be wondering how shame relates to chronic pain or to illness. If shame is an inner sense of self and our messages to ourself is one of being defective or deficient, we will feel separate from others. And we will even feel separate from ourselves. I remember after my accident, my identity of who I believed myself to be had completely changed. There was before accident Michelle, who was strong and capable. And then there was after accident Michelle, who was weak, in constant pain, and just basically unable to perform the normal activities of daily living. And that was a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call for me. So the shame I began to feel for myself actually just covered me like a shroud. I believed, because I was not who I used to be, I believed that I was no longer as valuable or as needed. I didn't know where I belonged or even how I belonged. I felt unlovable. Like, who could love a person who's so needy and not whole? Like, this was my internal dialogue. The question, what did I do to create this in my life, made me feel like there was something inherently wrong with me. And that is shame. That is where shame comes in. So when you have this self-talk, and that negative belief that you are unworthy, that actually puts you into a freeze zone. So shame actually freezes you. So we've talked before about the central nervous system and the fight, flight, or freeze response. So shame creates freeze. So it freezes us and it prevents us from moving forward. We're afraid to speak it, to share the truth of how we're feeling. I know I couldn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody that I was feeling so unworthy. And we're ashamed. I know I was ashamed. So it's really a vicious cycle that can be very difficult to break. And through my learning and studying, I realized that the only way to break it, the only way to change the pattern, is actually by admitting it, naming it. For me to be able to name, oh my God, I feel so much shame. I feel shame. And that actually, it's like it cut a cord. So, hi Jody, hi honey. So we're afraid of being judged, when in reality we are our own worst judge. And by admitting our shame, we set ourselves free. When we speak it, it loses power over us. And it's basically cutting a cord that sets us free. And we're no longer bound by that shame. This is where that mindfulness practice also comes in. So first, I just want to reiterate, naming shame releases the bind it has on you. So first step is naming that you actually even carry shame. And then the mindfulness practice and our ability to have empathy for ourselves. As Brené Brown says, empathy is the antidote to shame. Last week I talked about self-love. This is a practice that will help us break the shackles of shame. Self-love, self-empathy, self-compassion, all of that is intertwined. In previous talks, I know I've shared on this page and in the Rise Above Holistic Healing for Chronic Pain group, that we also have danger messages we give ourselves and safety messages we give ourselves. Our negative self-talk and the shame that we carry are actually interpreted as danger messages in our body. These danger messages will affect our breathing rate, our immune system, our mood, and the pain we feel in our body. Our ability to change our system in our body by changing the danger messages that we're giving ourselves. So there's safety messages and there's danger messages. We're wanting to change those messages to safety messages. So our ability to change our systems in our body is actually called bioplasticity. We have the ability to change the negative messaging to positive messaging in our mind and our body. And this is going to change how pain is actually perceived. Mindfulness practice is not only about what we say to ourselves, but how we're also able to visualize a different way of being, a different way of moving in any given moment in our day. Replacing the I am defective, which is that shame piece, replacing the I am defective to I am effective. I am effective at anything I do. That's a really great way to change that danger messaging into a safety message for ourselves and our body. So shame is normal, actually. Shame is really normal part of being human. But how we hold it is not. To hold shame within ourselves does nothing but destroy ourselves. So again, shame is a part of being human. But allowing it to freeze us, because I talked about how shame freezes us, prevents us from truly living and loving ourselves and others, because we are frozen in shame. Can't move anywhere, can't move forward, can't move anywhere. You are stuck. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of questions. How does shame show up in your life? If it does show up in your life. What is one step you can take to change that internal message? Again, I just want to reiterate, when you name shame, you cut the cord. If you feel guilt about anything, make sure you heal that guilt somehow by apologizing, by naming it, by saying I'm sorry to yourself, to others, by changing those danger messages into safety messages, letting yourself know that you are perfect the way you are. Nobody, as humans, do not make mistakes. So again, remind yourself that you are human and you're only doing the best that you can in any given moment. So I think I'm done. I think that's the talk for today. If you have any questions or comments, just, shoot that into the message box. Or if you want to direct message me and have a little dialogue around shame or anything that you want to talk about, I am available. So I hope you all have a beautiful day in love and light. And bye. Bye, Jody. Bye-bye, guys.